This is the Marketing Umbrella Podcast, where it's all about getting the information you need from successful leading marketers to build and grow your digital marketing agency. Brought to you by Itamar Shafir, founder and CEO of Umbrella, the technology platform and brand that is powering thousands of marketing agencies around the country. Find him at umbrellaus.com. Now, here's your host, Kevin Prewett.
This is the Marketing Umbrella Podcast. My name is Kevin Prewett, and I have the honor of hosting, and we have a very special guest today who's the CEO and co-founder of Kapwing, a video creation platform for modern creative teams. Kapwing now serves hundreds of thousands of creative teams using AI and cloud collaboration to speed up video content operations. Before Kapwing, she studied computer science at Stanford and worked at Google as an associate product manager. I know there's a lot more there. But Julia Enthoven, we just want to welcome you to the Marketing Umbrella Podcast.
I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for that nice intro, Kevin. I appreciate it.
We had just a minute to chat before we hit the big red record button, but Julia and I have been trying to make this happen for literally months now. I mean, so I have it's hard to get on her schedule, and I know that she is very busy leading her company. But what did we not mention in the bio? There's probably so much more there.
Oh, there's definitely a lot more there. I mean, I think one thing about a bio is that it looks so straight when you describe your career journey in retrospect, but in the moment and in reality, it was definitely crooked. So many twists and turns.
Exactly.
Yeah, I originally got into tech through education. So totally different window that isn't really captured in that bio. That sounds very much like I was always on a predestined tech path, but many other things hidden underneath the glossy surface.
So when you say ed, is it an ed tech route, or is it like you were in education and somehow shifted into tech?
Yeah, I sort of started out with a really strong interest in education and education policy. I worked after my freshman year of college, I did an internship with the New York City Department of Education, which was like a policy internship.
Right.
And that was basically my introduction to technology and software, because I happened to be placed with this office called the Office of Research and Data at the New York City DOE. And that office does a lot of work with New York's, with the DOE's software and data collection systems. And I just learned there how essential great software is to empowering teachers and ultimately empowering schools and students. And so, I came back to school after that internship and took my first computer science class. And that was sort of the beginning of the story of my introduction to software and to computer science.
So I know ed tech could be an episode, PS 103 could be its own episode here, but this is a MarTech podcast. So we're going to segue into the whole marketing space here, but talk about shifting from that internship to, you said, Google, and what else was along that journey?
Yeah, well, because I was really interested in classrooms, I worked on a lot of projects as a student where I was thinking about how software could help teachers, how it could help students in classrooms. And of course, that's a big piece also of what led us towards Kapwing, which is all about video creation, because as anyone who has kids or has been a kid listening to this podcast knows, kids love making video. They learn to make videos almost before they can read, often before they can read and write. And yet the tools that they use to create video are these really heavyweight incumbent software products that require a MacBook to run, like
Right.
iMovie, or require this really expensive software license. And so we wanted to make something that was just much easier to use, that anyone could use to get started with creating a video. And at first, my background in education and from Google was important for that whole journey, because it was part of what we felt really excited about in the early days, was how do we also empower students in classrooms. What we learned is that, this is what I really learned from Google is that this is a much bigger problem than second graders on their Chromebooks.
For sure.
And it turns out that even professionals on, professional heavyweight devices really struggle to access video as a storytelling medium. It's really hard to learn the software. It's difficult to use. It's not optimized for like modern use cases. It's very tedious. And even myself, as like someone with a Stanford computer science degree, I was super intimidated by making videos for the first time. And, we talked to graphic designers that like are really intimidated by video creation and video storytelling, people that are agency owners that would love to offer video marketing as a service, but feel like it's too expensive to invest in the talent. And that is really like the core problem that Kapwing solves, is how do we make video creation easier, but not just easier, also more modern, designed for a hybrid team, works from any device and fully collaborative, so that you can work with clients and you can work with your colleagues and peers as you're creating video. So anyways, that's not really my career journey, but that's a little on how I got from like the world of education into the world of video. And yeah, I guess like on my own career journey, I started taking computer science classes in the fall of my sophomore year, and loved it. Like found that it was totally different than what I had imagined for software engineering as a career. Very creative, really stretched my mind, made me feel really challenged. And, I worked at Apple and then at Google, building software that people use to browse information essentially on the web. And that learning about how to design amazing software, how to use the web for like in the best ways possible, that was really like a world-class training from those companies on how to do it. That also has, contributed a lot to Kapwing.
There's so often that startups are created out of the pain point of the creator. Was this part of your, and I'm not trying to get into IP copyright issues here, when you're at Google or Apple, but was it in your role there that you were struggling with the whole idea of video, or is it completely detached?
No, it was not at all in the role. My co-founder and I worked together at Google, and there we were working on image search. So basically, like, you can look up pictures of whatever, Christina Aguilera, see pictures of her, for example. And as part of our role on image search, we were thinking about how do we bring more videos and more GIFs into sort of the Google search surface,
right?
Working on projects related to that. And that was how we learned that video was just an exploding medium in terms of, like, there were so many new consumer and business domains where people were coming to Google looking for video. And that was why Google was investing in new products to bring more videos and GIFs into the SERP. This was back in 2017. So that was the year that Instagram Stories launched. LinkedIn and Twitter started supporting video posts back in 2017.
Vine was dead.
Vine was dead. This little app called Musical.ly was acquired by ByteDance. And that's the app that would become TikTok. TikTok didn't even exist yet. And so, yeah, a lot of things were happening in the world of video. And we wanted to, seeing this mega trend and also experiencing the pain point ourselves of how difficult it is to create. We wanted to make something that was fully modern, fully collaborative, that was a solution for people using video as a storytelling medium.
I don't want to, paint a picture that's not accurate, but the thing that comes to mind as you're describing this is almost like the same trajectory that Canva took. I mean, do you see a lot of similarities in the trajectory or in the journey that the companies have taken?
Canva has absolutely always been a company we admire. And I think that they had a similar approach to seeing that there was this new format, which was like images, graphic designs for social media, that was becoming so much more important for many new business and consumer problems. And they really capitalized on that with their software early on. So I definitely think that video is a different thing than just graphic design.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
And I think that like a company for creators that's really about storytelling is different than a company that's for design. But I definitely see that we have similar product principles in how we have built our product. And especially in the early days when we were growing all through SEO and through YouTube and through organic marketing, that was very similar to Canva's journey at the beginning too. All of those channels to distribute their product were similar in the early days.
I mean, it just makes sense. You were trying to kind of solve the collaboration piece. You were trying to make it ease of use, and even with video, that would even be, to me, be more difficult than say graphics, because just the sheer size of the files. Exactly. And the thing you're trying to I guess keep quality up but speed up, but how do you do that in it's almost like counterintuitive. But no, that to me is a great comparison, because you're right. I mean, Canva is such a success story. It's like, it's like people saying it's the Uber of something, I mean, it's the Canva of, something, but it really is interesting to hear your story. So this, from my understanding, was bootstrapped early on.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, we built the first version ourselves from scratch. Just my co-founder and I. We started building a very, very simple tool that only helped with one very specific video editing task. We did that like 12 times with 12 individual little one-off tools. And, then we started hearing from people being like, oh, I want to be able to resize my video and I want to add subtitles, or I want to add subtitles and I want to be able to trim it, clip it down. And we were like, there's like a bigger problem here, which is just like making the video creation and video storytelling experience easier to learn, faster, and more based around modern video needs rather than these kind of outdated sort of like older style of video.
I see that. I mean, it's interesting that, people talk about focusing on doing one thing and doing one thing really well with a very small audience and then scale, from there. So what were some early learnings that you got feedback on and iterated, kind of the whole MVP cycle that you were going through? So walk us through the early days of Kapwing.
Yeah. I would say that one thing we learned is that it was it was impossible essentially to guess what was going to be successful just in a vacuum, without talking to our audience. And that we launched like probably a few of those like 12 individual tools. Some of them just really went nowhere. Like some of them just really didn't help. For example, we launched this like sound effects, add a sound effect was the idea. And that tool like went nowhere. It turns out that like we just, we didn't build the product correctly. It wasn't like powerful enough. The sound effects weren't good enough, etc. And several other things kind of like that, where we were kind of surprised in both directions at the success and the lack of success of some of the tools. So the major learning there was just you get the best feedback when you actually put something in front of people and ask them if they'll use it or ask them if they'll pay for it, rather than just trying to guess what they need in a vacuum. I would say the second learning was that, a huge learning, which absolutely still true today, is that marketers are dealing with really like big demands in terms of the quantity of content that they need to create. And so being able to just automate tasks, not just making it a little bit easier, but like making it 10x faster and easier, is absolutely like something that marketers needed from us and needed from our product. And so that's really been our kind of slogan internally, is like, how can we make video 10 times faster to make rather than just a little bit faster? And we just hear that again and again from people out there. A zillion other learnings. Obviously, I'm a first-time founder. I've never grown a business before. Like, we made so many mistakes. We learned, we incorporated a business for the first time. We hired our first employees. We made plenty of mistakes along the way, but we raised money. But those are some of my learnings with regards to product development for Kapwing.
What was the model of like a freemium model early, or did you just you were trying to build your user base and nobody, you weren't charging anybody anything, and then what was the decision to go to a paid model versus a free model?
Yeah. So in the early days when we were bootstrapping, we decided to um, monetize the product by adding a watermark that shows up on every free video. So if you make a video for free on Kapwing, there'll be a little logo of ours in the bottom corner, and that's still true today. So the reason why that worked well is because if you were just making a funny thing to share with your friend, you don't care about the watermark. But if you are using Kapwing repetitively for work, for business purposes, then you do care because you really want it to look on brand.
Right.
And so it was a good way of monetizing from our target user base while also growing the sort of top line overall user base and SEO footprint. So yeah, that was how we made our very first, revenue, was just people paying for a subscription to the software so that they could use it watermark free. Now we have added a bunch of features and new value that comes with the subscription rather than just removing the watermark. But of course, like not so secret is that the watermark also really helped us grow because people would see it out there on the internet. If someone shared it on Reddit, or they, shared a video during their company all hands with the watermark, then everyone would see it and it would be like, huh, what is this like Kapwing thing? What is this like Kapwing watermark or logo? And that also helped us to get our brand exposure. Like in the early days, I remember there was one day where, like a year into growing Kapwing, Kanye West retweeted a Kapwing video. And that was just like a wild moment where you're like, wow, there's just literally millions of people that our brand is in front of now. So yeah, that's just like one small example, but it gets to the larger trend around the viral watermark.
And Joe Jonas too, maybe.
Yep.
It seemed like there were some others that I think I've actually heard you reference maybe on another podcast. But there's actually a kind of a funny story about your conversations around the watermark. Tell that story a little bit about maybe you, your co-founder, your lead team, whatever. What was the decision made on the pricing?
Well, in the early days, we could not believe that anyone would pay us for this service, because we were just like, all it does is this one really specific thing, which is like put text above your video. That was all it did. And we were in such disbelief that people would decide to pay us that we actually made it possible to skip the paywall. So you could click on this little link below pay us by just saying no thank you or skip for now. And if you skipped, then you would see a really sad picture of my co-founder and I with fake cry faces or phony cry faces. And we would ask you to write us an apology, and we'd explain that we're a small business, we're just getting started, and so we'd really prefer if you could pay us, but if not, then you can write us an apology. And you actually had to write more than 6 characters. If you didn't write anything, or you skipped it, or you wrote gobbledygook, we would say something like, no, you need to write us a longer, more sincere apology.
That is hilarious.
And it was so funny to see what people wrote. I mean, the funniest part is just most people were quite sincere.
Yeah.
So, some people just really needed their video without a watermark, and they were really sorry that they couldn't pay us for it. So it was a great first step into the world of SaaS and monetizing software, because we could see that it just allowed us to see how many people would actually pay for it if they didn't have to. It also kind of created a connection between us and our users that helped us to get our very first backlinks, our very first kind of brand champions, even before we were really making money.
I love that story. And when I heard a similar version the first time, and it just thought, how bold that was. And legend favors the bold, or whatever that story is, that quote is. But the whole idea that you would have said, that's so counterintuitive to what most companies would be. They would never, show a sad face. Say, if you're going to take the free version, you need to write us, you bring a note from your mom that you can do that. But What are some other like early lessons that you learned about just trying to market, from like 0 to 1, 1 to 2? What were some of the other guerrilla tactics you used to say, we've got to get out in front of a lot of people?
Well, you know, I have so many learnings and lessons that we did from the early days. We tried everything. I feel like we threw spaghetti at the wall, and 80% of the things that we tried did not work at all. And it was so different than Google, where when you launched something, the whole universe cared.
Yeah.
Every journalist wanted to write about it. And then going to this startup where just like no one cares yet, no one cares at all. And, journalists don't even look at your email, and, many other learnings. So anyways, because we had worked at Google, and because my co-founder had some experience with launching a few like websites as side projects, we knew that SEO was important from the very early days. SEO meaning when someone comes to Google and searches for something related to video creation or video editing, like online video editor or crop video, we had a feeling that it was really important to rank for those queries, to show up in the organic results. And we also had a sense of like, how do companies show up in those results? And it's no secret that this was published in the Google founder's PhD thesis that led to the company. But getting people to link to your site, getting backlinks is a very important ingredient of that. And so in the early days, we did a ton of things to try and get people to link to kapwing.com. And one of the things that we did that was really successful in the early days, one of our very first like big successes with SEO was, I used to answer every customer support query myself on our website. I used to we used to have like a little Drift chatbot. And if people came to our website, they would see my face and they could write me a message and I would respond. And I noticed that I got like these, like some like pretty like rude comments, basically people just like trolling me on the internet. Some things that were like crude, some things that were just like random nonsense, but like, obviously, and some things that were just like harassing, it was just like mean, essentially. Yep. And one day I just like told my co-founder about this. I was like, oh, I'm like so fed up with this today. Like I've gotten like 6 messages and it's not even noon yet, like this. And he was like, why don't you try changing it to my face instead? My co-founder is like a, Asian guy. It changed the behavior of our users a lot. All of a sudden, there were no messages coming in like that, basically. No one was like, had these like crude messages or rude things to say. People were just asking questions and giving feedback about the product. And so anyways, we did like a little informal study on this. We took 2 more. We tried it with like our logo as the icon. We tried it with like a stock photo of like a beautiful like model as like the icon. And I did a write-up on this, and then Wired magazine covered the story. I like pitched a bunch of journalists. None of them responded. And then 2 days later, like someone from Wired was like, actually, this is kind of interesting. Maybe we'll write about this. And that led to just like a huge leap on SEO, like on our domain authority, essentially, for our brand new website. So yeah, huge learnings about SEO from that experience. Like not all backlinks are created equal, like original data and the storytelling is, really valuable. Things that I'm sure marketers listening to this podcast are rolling their eyes about because, they've heard that a million times, but it was like an experience, really direct experience, firsthand experience into the world of marketing, and how important that kind of exposure is to go from 0 to 1.
Well, going from, say, your in-house marketing approach to like your integration with marketing companies, and digital agencies. So what is the use case? What is the overlap? What's the integration with say a marketing agency today, with Kapwing?
Yeah. So 2 things I'll mention on that. One is that if you are looking to add video creation or video editing services to your agency. Or if you are an in-house marketing team looking to create more video so that you can lower your CPC for like for your paid ads or for your performance marketing initiatives, or so that you can experiment with new organic channels, like getting your existing content out there to new organic channels like TikTok or Instagram Reels.
Right.
Kapwing is like an amazing solution to speed up your workflow and your content operations without reducing quality. So that is really the main business value for marketers and for marketing teams. Like, lower your CPC and test out new organic channels by making more video content faster with your existing resources. I would say that we do that really through two key workflows. One is that we have generative AI products that let you start from nothing, start from just like an idea or a script and get a video, like create a video in minutes and clicks without needing to shoot footage. That's the first thing. And the second thing is, if you have like content, let's say you have an article or you have a long form video that you want to repurpose, Kapwing makes that optimizing, repurposing extremely fast and easy. You can quickly add subtitles automatically. You can translate into other languages. You can clip things down. You can find highlights using AI. You can remove silences, etc. So again, this is really related to like, how do you lower cost of acquisition and also make more diverse creative faster with your team. So that's really how marketing teams use us today. They bring their creative team on board, or their like social team on board, or their like agency on board to collaborate with each other and to use Kapwing's automatic tools and speed up their overall workflow.
So if they are working for their clients, are they using this almost like a white labeled solution, or is this kind of a standalone? Do you kind of understand the question?
Yeah, we have different clients, or different agencies use Kapwing in different ways. So some of them use it on top of like Adobe Premiere. So they'll do all the production in Adobe Premiere or some other like incumbent video editor. And then they will like bring the video into Kapwing to resize it for all the different platforms, add subtitles, clip things down, add certain brand elements, kind of the post-production, I would say. And they'll use it as a collaboration surface with their client. So maybe they'll make a new folder for each client so that the client can just see all the creative that they've done for them and can like download that, or they can just have visibility into what's going on. They can leave comments, etc. That's a very common workflow for us. Some agencies will use Kapwing as a full replacement for Premiere. So especially if an agency is like adding video services for the first time and they don't have like an existing Adobe Premiere workflow, Kapwing can be a much like easier, more accessible way to get started with video creation. And they will just use it to like do everything. They'll do the production, the post-production, and the collaboration with clients. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. And I knew that it had a broad range of kind of uses in that space, but I'm really trying to drill down for our audience to say, how they can absolutely picture that integration, with where they are in the space. But the idea that you were talking about, creating content for social media is there's one thing about just creating generic content based on a format. And there's another, the next step is actually integrating with kind of a social media, channel. So what is that? What's the, is there a Zapier, function, between Kapwing and a social media channel? Is there a link somehow that is more than we're just creating content based on a format?
Yeah, good question. So the answer is today, we do not have that integration. You need to download the videos that you create and then post them on that channel yourself. We do have certain things for like presets for each social platform, like the preset size, and like show like an overlay on top of your content for that platform. so that you can make sure that your like captions and your text and things are not covered by like the native buttons, like the native Chrome. Every marketer has had that moment where like they publish something on TikTok and it's like, this is totally, you can't even
read half the words.
Call to action, like call to action is totally covered.
Yeah.
So Kapwing helps with that. So we do have native presets, but you have to export, download, and publish on the social media platform yourself. However, sneak peek, we are right now developing a new surface for basically like a Zapier for marketing content, so that you can go from, for example, long form content to short form content automatically. Like you can basically just automate as much of that as possible, or from, for example, like your blog, like your RSS feed or your blog to video for Instagram stories or whatever, so that every time you publish a blog post, it's just being promoted on your Instagram stories.
Or podcasts.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Yeah. That's another one of our automations is podcast to video, both short form and long form, like podcast to YouTube and podcast to Instagram. So we are really interested in talking to marketers who have like use cases like this, where they're like, I have the same workflow every single whatever day, week, and I just want to be able to turn that on autopilot. Like I know exactly what it's supposed to do, and I just want to automate that workflow. We are actually building this product right now, so would love to talk to people who are interested in that. Can reach out to me or connect on LinkedIn.
And they would love to talk to you about that as well. And I promised our audience that was not a plant. We did not talk about that question before the internet. Completely out of the blue. So was there anything else, like, just talk about like what's next? You kind of mentioned that, or you kind of preempted that question, with the hey, we're coming soon. But what do you envision Kapwing will look like in, 18 months, 36 months or whatever? And what's that kind of upwardly right aiming hockey stick growth that you're experiencing?
Yeah, I mean, right now, of course, just like the whole universe, we have been integrating a lot of new AI technologies into our platform. And the reason I mention that is because I think that in 2 years, 3 years, like really the capability that we're dreaming of here is that you can tell us about your audience and what your audience cares about. And you can just come to Kapwing and already have your social media content, your organic social content generated for you. And that social content will be like both repurposing your existing content, but also like listening to what your audience cares about out there on the internet and creating content about that, so that you have ideas from the kinds of things you might comment on or the stories that exist out there on the internet. In my opinion, novelty and like what's happening in culture is super important for marketing and for storytelling. Just like I was telling that story about our own experience with Wired magazine, talking about, gender roles in tech back in 2017. I think understanding what's happening out there in the world is a super important piece of marketing. So we want to be able to help with autopilot, not just for repurposing, but also for coming up with new ideas about the kinds of stories you might tell. And in addition to that, we have a huge focus on customization and quality. It's not just like AI generation and you just get something that's really weird looking and not on brand. Instead, you get suggestions where you have full customization and control. You can change every aspect of what is suggested and make sure that it is on brand and everything is correct for you. So we've spent a long time building out that customization platform, the editor, and now we're building sort of like those AI workflows on top of it to sort of continue going from helping people go from 0 to 1. So that's something I'm really excited about. Hopefully, AI can get to a point where it can really understand your brand and help to help you to craft your ideas with on-brand visual design. So that is a big goal of ours and a direction that we've been, really exploring from tech perspective.
We've interviewed a number of people that have talked about the AI space and the kind of the generative AI space. And I think this is the first time that I've ever heard anybody talk in terms of preemptive, like content creation, where the idea that says, it's not that you're inputting, the prompts, it's that this is actually doing it for you beforehand. It's like it's going out there and actively, trolling, for kind of zeitgeist or whatever the current, culture issues are and that are related to your brand, and already creating that before you're ever even like kind of stepping in the arena, so to speak. So it's almost like a futuristic, novel that's being written before our eyes, and we're seeing the good, the bad, and the ugly, of everything AI. So it is.
Yeah, and then I'll say about that like, AI is like probably not going to be very good. It's still going to take like that, like marketing judgment around what relates to your audience to distinguish kind of like good ideas and bad ideas, and to craft really the final message. But so we're not trying to replace that intuition. I think it's impossible.
Right.
But we do want to help with just giving people a starting point, because it's so much easier to start from something than it is to start from just truly blank canvas.
Yeah, and no doubt about it. That is a good clarification, and what a great segue into kind of our rapid fire part of the interview.
Yeah.
One of my favorite parts. It is such a unique set of questions. But one thing I want to add is that you have piqued our interest so much. We're just going to have to plan a 2.0 interview when you kind of launch some of these features and come and talk about those, as they're launched, and learnings from like the 2.0 version, that you were talking about, kind of post generative AI. But these are just really quick, rapid fire. First thing that comes to your mind, short answers. You're going to think these are disparate questions, but there's a method to our madness here. But did you get along with your parents growing up?
Definitely. Yes.
Do you have siblings?
I have 3 brothers.
And do you currently have a pet?
No pets. Definitely, assuming you don't count Kapwing. Yes, no pets.
Yeah, sure. No pets that aren't digital. What time do you wake up in the morning?
I wake up around 6:45 a.m.
And go to bed?
About 10:30 every night. So
owning a company and working for a company, do you sleep well at night?
I sleep so well at night, but I'm cheating because I actually am a diagnosed narcoleptic. So I have actually a condition that makes it very easy for me to sleep at night, I would say.
Okay. What is your ideal vacation spot? Money, no object.
I think money, no object would probably be like Australia or Bali.
That's a common choice among guests in that area. How does faith affect how you operate?
I think it's a foundation on which I grew up, and it's a foundation that gives me stability in my life and career, gives me maybe guidance in my own life and career. And I think it's also something that, faith generally represents this idea and something bigger than ourselves. And it's something that I, in that sense, like always love to see in our teammates and things like that, like a belief in something that is outside of just the individual.
If you were queen for a day, what is one thing you would change about the marketing space?
I would change the emphasis on like constantly creating fresh content on social platforms, especially on TikTok, because I think that the emphasis on always having to be producing content is a problem for mental health in the world. And it does it does impact the way that we live. So I prefer Google's algorithm, which is a little bit less dependent on constantly producing the freshest stuff.
I will vote for you when you run for queen for a day. So yeah,
Oh,
I love that answer. Anything that we haven't touched on, you just want to close us out with today? Maybe tell people where the best place to find out more about Kapwing and more about Julia online.
Yeah, so we definitely always love having conversations with marketers. If you or your team are struggling with content operations for video content, especially, would love to connect and just get you a virtual coffee and get to chat. Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn or on Twitter. My DMs are open on both. So please reach out. And yeah, you can find me at Julia Enthoven on LinkedIn or on Twitter.
And she is very responsive on LinkedIn and active as well. I want to add that, and great content that you create around not just Kapwing, but just in the whole marketing space. So, Julia, I just want to thank you again just for taking time in your busy schedule to talk with us today on the Marketing Umbrella podcast, the podcast created by Itamar Shafir of Umbrella, who is really just here to help marketing agencies grow and scale their agencies. And thanks again for just chatting with us, and have a great week.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kevin. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you for tuning in to another great episode of the Marketing Umbrella Podcast, where we provide the information you need from successful leading marketers to build and grow your digital marketing agency. To learn more, go to umbrellaus.com.